evening, Mr. and Ms. Internet, and all our ships at sea. That's Wednesday. Once again, it's time for the Freeway Forum here on the world-famous 405 Freeway in beautiful, sunny Southern California. My name is Dari. I'll be your host for the next 20 or 30 minutes, however long it takes to get the hell out of this traffic. Inviting you to come along and join the fun right here live on Periscope, periscope.tv/airborne surfer. If you're not watching this live, you're catching the replay on youtube.com/theairborne surfer. I invite you to drop your comments in the doobly-doo below or hit them up as we're going on here, and I will do my best to attend to them as much as I can. So, here we are. Me and you and me, hurt each other cause we gotta get through. I switched them around, but that's okay. It's you, me, and World War III, referencing a song that I don't think anybody has heard in 20 years. And probably 20 years ago, nobody heard it then either. I'm trying to remember the artist's name, but it was on the soundtrack for the original Mission Impossible movie, right from, what, 96, I guess it was? The Brian De Palma Mission Impossible movie. I liked the Brian De Palma Mission Impossible movie because I thought it was more kind of a thriller, espionage kind of movie. And I liked that about it. But apparently nobody else liked it. They just wanted to see a big blow-em-up action flick. But, So, that's the Mission Impossible. So I'm like the only person in the world that actually liked the original Mission Impossible movie. Well, original. The 90s Mission Impossible movie. The first Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie. But on the soundtrack, which most of the soundtrack was not featured in the film. I think there was like one or two actual tracks from the film. If you don't count the actual score by Danny Elfman, there's a handful of tracks from the score on the album, and there's one or two actual like pop tracks on there, and that's it. That's the rest of it was inspired by Mission Impossible. You Me and World War III being one of those tracks. There was a lot of kind of Euro trashy kind of stuff in there, which is okay. I don't have a problem with it. Massive Attack was on there. York was on there. Cranberries were on there. I think Cranberries was actually in the film, somewhere in the background of one of the scenes. And then this You Me and World War III. I Spy, that was another track that was on there. I spy a girl. Anyway, so yeah, You, Me, and World War III. So okay, so North Korea had another what shall we call that one? Not a premature ejaculation, but it's certainly a sputter and an explosion. Now, everybody's making fun of North Korea because, oh, look at that, they can't get a rocket off the ground, blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the thing. 2 years ago, Elon Musk couldn't get a rocket off the ground either. They kept blowing up on the pad. Rocket surgery is actually deceptively difficult. That's a fun license plate. One. Anyway, so rocket surgery is deceptively difficult. It is not for everyone, which is why I'm not a rocket surgeon. But not that I wouldn't have been, but yeah, I was lazy in college and I didn't want to do math as much. Because in high school I was not properly taught math, so I did not have a affinity for maths, so I decided I did not want to pursue maths or maths-related fields in college, so I didn't, and thus I'm not a rocket surgeon. I blame the public education system. But my public college did okay with maths, so that's, yeah, that's that. Anyway, so yeah, 2 years ago, Elon Musk could not get a rocket off the ground, and now he not only has gotten it off the ground, he has landed it on a remote-controlled pad. So never underestimate scientific advancement. It's unlikely, yes, it's unlikely that Pyongyang would be able to get a properly working rocket, or missile, I should say, missile. It's a guided ballistic missile. It's highly unlikely that it would happen, but it's something they are actively working on, and so that is that's an issue. Now, I'm not, I'm not somebody who watches the, what is it, the 37th parallel, 38th parallel? Sounds right, 38th parallel. Not somebody who watches it. Not a doomsday watcher, but you know, I mean, Pyongyang's saber rattling, Kim Jong-un's saber rattling. It can be worrisome sometimes, especially as somebody who did grow up in the Cold War. Did grow up in the midst of the Cold War, towards the end of it, of course, but, you know, I was there. And I understood the concept of global thermonuclear war. So succinctly, I think I learned that term from war games. Let's play global thermonuclear war. Shall we play a game? Anyway, so yeah, so I was aware of it as a child. I was a little kid, but I was definitely aware of the concept. So it has stuck with me. So saber rattling is always something that sits in the back of my mind, you know, because I was there. Brinksmanship is not necessarily a good foreign policy, as evidenced by my history studies. So, yeah, I'm not too big a fan of that, especially when everybody's sitting on a hair trigger. North Korea has sort of run into their, you know, they're sort of in this fatalist, like the waning days of a cult kind of thing. You know, it's Jonestown when they're getting ready to drink the Kool-Aid. It's getting towards the end. It's David Koresh and the Waco folks and Janet Reno's right outside the gates. You know, that's kind of where we are with North Korea. At least where North Korea is with North Korea. And North Korea is a wild card. North Korea has a potential to become very destabling in world affairs, because they're sort of this linchpin between the United States allies, and China and Russia. Less so on Russia, because, I mean, they do border Russia. No, they border China. They do directly border China, in which there's a little bitty tiny piece of China there, and then Russia. Yeah, like, I'm not a big fan of brinksmanship. I understand the game. I understand game theory. That's one of the sciences that really intrigued me as a kid. Is game theory. You can always boil it down to the wrong answer. Boil everything down to the wrong answer. So, yeah, so I like to keep an eye on it. I don't keep a watchful eye on it, but I keep an eye on it. And thankfully, you know, they didn't test a nuclear weapon. They didn't test a nuclear device, or a gizmo. They just tested a gizmo is a technical term, by the way. That is a technical term in nuclear armaments. Gizmo is a test device. It is a test warhead. Is a gizmo. Brings a whole new meaning to the Gremlins movie. Anyway, so they didn't detonate a gizmo. They didn't test a gizmo. That's good. They did test a rocket, which failed spectacularly. That's sort of good. A lot of gloom and doom predictions. A lot of gloom and doom from many of the more doomsayers. Publications that get their revenues from that's a Dodge Viper. I haven't seen one of those in a while. The publications that get their revenues from sensationalist headlines. They're the ones saying, "Oh, we're at the brink of World War III." Oh goodness. And we're back. I don't know what was left, what was missed, but anyway, so we're talking about geopolitical things. So in the Middle East, you have all these different little ethnic tribal groups that want to govern themselves, and they want to govern their own territory, but they don't want to do it. They don't want somebody else to govern their territory. So imagine, if you will, the Republicans and the Democrats being forced to live together, where they literally would like to kill each other. Like, I mean, you think our party system is fuckered in this country. Imagine a country where they literally believe that the opposition wants to kill them. And that's what you have in the Middle East. And so when we try to install somebody who's pro-US or pro-West or whatever, we want to try to encourage that. Yeah, it looks great on paper. Yay, democratically elected governor, whatever. But in reality, that's where rebellion comes in, because they've already seen a violent overthrow. They just want their land, and they want to do it themselves, for better or worse. And that's where you have, like, ISIS coming into play. So they paint the West and the U.S. in particular as the great evil. We need to destroy them so that they'll leave us alone to govern ourselves. That's sort of the idea. Now, please understand that I am not in no way advocating their position. I am in no way condoning their position. I'm just trying to explain it. I'm trying to explain why they hate us so goddamn much. And I encourage anybody who has, experience in this field to chime in, please. Dr. Jones, I'm looking at you. Conflict resolution in the Middle East, religious and ethnic disparities between minority groups, blah, blah, blah. Because I feel like I'm onto something here. I feel like I'm talking, I feel like I know what I'm talking about. But again, I am not an expert in this field. I'm a dilettante at best. What I'm trying to do is bring it down to the novice level, trying to bring it down to the layman's level, to understand what's going on and why things are the way they are. So that's what's going on in the Middle East. By contrast, North Korea literally wants to destroy the United States, and would do so. The people there are so brainwashed, they would do so they would risk the complete annihilation of themselves in order for the greater good of destroying the United States, and nuclear Armageddon, essentially, is what they're going for. This is more of a Orwellian case, like a 1984, like we need an enemy sort of thing in order to keep the people in line. We need to rally around the flag, sort of like what we do with everyone. Rally around the flag so that we can all band together and destroy our common enemy. Our enemy. Whatever. So, yeah, so there's a level of fatalism in ISIS, there's a level of fatalism in North Korea, but it's different levels of fatalism for different reasons. So North Korea wants to unite South Korea, they want to unite the two Koreas and have Korea again. And they want to do it under communist rule because for some reason they think that's better. They see the South as decadent and depraved and a puppet of the United States. I am not Korean. I don't know these things. All I know is what I have studied. Again, I'm a dilettante, so I am not an expert in any of this, but I know what I know. And so North wants to unite the South. They want to unite the two Koreas. The South, of course, wants to reunite the two Koreas, but the South, being free, knows and understands and wants to help the North. And this is literally a situation of a totalitarian regime. This is an actual, real totalitarian situation where you could almost justify it. You can almost justify intervention here because you have a situation where an ally wants, you can objectively see that there's a situation that warrants this sort of intervention because you have, excuse me, inside of my ear just really freaking itched really badly all of a sudden. So versus something like the tribalism where like we want to try to, the Middle East, a lot of them are fairly, decent right-thinking nations, for the most part, except, obviously there's issues with women's rights, there's obviously issues with women's rights, there's obviously issues with freedom of movement, there's issues with freedom of association, there's things going on there, there are things going on there. But a lot of that comes down to the tribalism. They just want to be left alone to pursue their own interests without our intervention because our intervention mostly revolves around our economic interests in the region, which is like now with all the new stores of oil and the new techniques, hydraulic fracking being one of them, for better or worse, because I'm personally I'm not necessarily a fan of hydraulic fracking because of the possible implications regarding geological instability, regarding greenhouse gas emissions, water table incursions, things like that. There are issues there that will have to be dealt with at some point. But interestingly, that a lot of this intervention in the Middle East. A lot of it, I believe now, it was at one time, up through the 90s, our interventions in the Middle East were purely economic. We would do them under the guise of spreading freedom, but we weren't really spreading freedom, just like we weren't really spreading freedom in Central and South America in the 70s and 80s. You know, there's guys there, but obviously it wasn't. And now we're really just kind of cleaning up the mess that we really screwed the pooch and got ourselves into in the first decade of the 21st century. 21st century so far has been a decade defined by war, which is fucking weird and terrible. You know, hopefully we'll get a little better at it. I'm running out of time now, so I can't really go into much more detail. I'm kind of on a roll with this one today. So maybe we'll pick it up next week on next week's Freeway Forum. Please like, if you like this video, like it, share it with your friends. Tune in next week, 5 o'clock roughly, West Coast time, Pacific time, here on Periscope, periscope.tv/airbornesurfer. You always catch the replay, youtube.com/theairbornesurfer, where you'll find the rest of my videos. Lots of interesting stuff, fun stuff, a lot of sciencey and techie kind of stuff, a little retro fun, lots of projects, things like that going on over there. A lot of good stuff. youtube.com/theairbornesurfer. Of course, follow along on Twitter @airbornesurfer, and you can always get to everything from my website, airbornesurfer.com. If you have any comments, drop those in the doobly-doo. Let me know what you're thinking. You know, if you think I'm full of shit, let me know. I'm happy to exchange ideas. This show is about open debate. This show is about coming together and figuring things out and getting answers and, you know, figuring it out. Anyway, so that's really all I've got. I'll see you guys again next week. Check it out on the various social media platforms as outlined. And until next time, tally ho, y'all.